And just a quick handover. We'll get that video communication back with the station momentarily. We should have a pretty solid block coming up, so as long as everything continues to move along quickly, we're going to have great views of that hatch open. Everything gone well ahead of the timeline so far today. Docking was early.
It's great news.
Yeah, the crew's been moving through all of these steps really quickly and should get the hatch open early as well.
On your screen right now, you can see the two mission control centers currently watching over the operations on orbit right now. On the left is Johnson, and on the right is mission control at SpaceX, where Dan and I are right now.
Yep. We can't wave from that camera view, but yeah, we're just over top overlooking them, and those teams have been working hand in hand pretty much since the vehicle launch. Things really kicking off with what we call integrated operations, and that was just about when we went on the air earlier today before the docking, which is about 2.5 hours or so before the actual docking to the space station, and that was just when everything's really in lockstep between the two teams, sending to Dragon and making sure that the station's ready to receive it. But everything went real smoothly. We went through all the demos, had no issues the whole way up, and actually docked ahead of time. That docking again was at 2:51 a.m. Pacific time, 5:51 a.m. on the other coast over at the east there. For everyone, a little bit earlier in the morning for us.
Can't complain about early.
Can't complain when it's spaceflight operations. They don't tend to follow our clocks, they follow their own clock, which the space station follows Greenwich Mean Time. That's what the crew's on, and that's what we use to coordinate all of the different teams around the globe.
Checking.
And that's Ann McLean that we're hearing, and she's just reporting that the crew is just about ready, and so we should hopefully be getting that hatch opening coming real soon. So the ground is still looking for the pressures to all equal out, and then as soon as that looks good, they'll be ready to press forward. But again, I think hatch opening was originally supposed to be about 45 minutes from now, so we are still well ahead of our timeline for the day.
Now, once they open the hatch, we're still not done. There's still a lot more tests to run to make sure that Crew Dragon is safe to enter and make sure that everything looks nominal. We will actually right now seeing some live views inside the Crew Dragon spacecraft right there. You can see Ripley sitting over in the far left seat, and of course the zero gravity indicator, which has taken a liking to that footrest on the closest seat to the screen.
Which this has me really excited, because anybody who's followed a lot of space station operations over the years, I can't remember a time we've had the view from inside the spacecraft that just docked as the hatch gets open. So this is going to be really cool to see the hatch come open from this perspective, what the astronauts will actually be seeing when they're sitting inside this vehicle, and we'll be able to see the space station crew come through.
You can imagine seeing a time lapse of this footage from launch, you know, when they closed the side hatch of the Dragon to load all the cargo in, and then fast forwarded to now when astronauts on orbit are about to enter through the forward hatch. It's just unbelievable.
And it's going to be a fairly quick trip, about 5 days attached to the space station. Dragon did deliver a little over 400 pounds of cargo packed away underneath the seats there. Some of that, some crew supplies, so things like food and clothing for the crew, probably even some clothing for some upcoming crew members. So we have 3 new astronauts set to launch less than 2 weeks from now on a Soyuz rocket out of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. But the crew will be responsible, obviously, for unpacking all of that cargo. One of the things that is included in there are some cold
at
bags.
this time, we are ready for you to pick back up in the procedure. In 6.1, you have a go to proceed with mass donning, and we'll be standing by for the comm check. Copy. In work.
So this is a view from, or we just had a view from the exterior. You could see exactly where it was attached to the space station. But yeah, on the right-hand side of your screen, you got inside on one side of the hatch, inside the International Space Station. On the left-hand side of your screen, the other side of the hatch. Can't wait to see those two views merge with crew members passing through. So on the right-hand side of your screen, inside the space station, you can see those crew members donning those protective masks, just as a precaution as they enter the Dragon spacecraft. This is the first time that the Crew Dragon has docked at the space station, so it doesn't hurt to have as much caution as possible.
Yep. With NASA, we're definitely always about caution, especially since you know, we're ultimately responsible for the lives of these crew members when they're on board, and not expected to have any issues inside, but the crews will go in just to make sure. They'll take a couple of quick atmospheric readings, and then they'll come back inside the space station. The Dragon hatch will stay open. They'll come back inside of the space station, compare it to just background readings in another lab. And then once that's all good, they'll get the go to actually begin mixing the atmosphere and turn on those fans to start that motion between Dragon and the space station. I think the expected choreography is David St. Jacques should be the first one through the hatch. We'll see if that holds, but he's the one on the right there, and he again is the Canadian astronaut currently on board the space station. In the middle there is Oleg Kononenko, a Russian cosmonaut, and the current Expedition 58 commander. And then Anne McClain over on the left there, the NASA astronaut on board. So I think once they get all geared up, they'll be able to move through the final portion of actually opening up this hatch.
Once the hatch is open and the crew members are able to get those air samples, Dan and I will be continuing our coverage all the way until the air is determined to be good to go, and they're able to start mixing the atmosphere. And then we do expect, hopefully, a statement from those astronauts later in the morning. We will be here with you the entire time.
Nowhere else I'd rather be right now.
Exactly.
Well, except maybe up there opening the hatch.
So it looks like a pose for one final picture before they go in. They're looking great up there.
Houston, station 1-2, comm check.
That is a good comm check. And can you confirm that you can hear both Oleg and David in their epicas?
Yes, we have good communication between crew members.
All right, you are go to proceed. You have a go in step 7.1.
All right, and so with that go, and you heard 7.1, so that's the next step in their procedures, and that's for them to actually go in and start opening up the hatch. 7.1 is to move in close to the hatch. 7.2 is to open the hatch. So we are right there. So everyone keep an eye out. We should see that hatch opening momentarily. Again, you're going to see Oleg and David up at the hatch and hanging back in node 2.
Hopefully on the left-hand side of the screen, inside the Dragon capsule, we might be able to see some of that hatch open activity.
Yeah, it's really unique to have this perspective to have from both sides. So standing by for hatch open.
Houston Station, Dragon hatch opened at 13:07.
Copy.
And there you have it. Dragon hatch is open. Ann McClain made the call. It was 5:07 a.m. Pacific. I think 8:07 a.m. Eastern time. I'm doing some quick math in my head, and that's the International Space Station and Dragon docked together, flying over the northern Atlantic, about 255 statute miles in the air. So the Dragon hatch is open. You can see an arm reaching in.
This is the very first time that humans have been on orbit inside of a Dragon 2 capsule. Or any, oh, excuse me, not any Dragon, oh, Dragon 2 capsule.
All right, again, so it looks like David St. Jacques, he's going to be the first one through. He's going to take some quick atmospheric readings. He's using a device that we have over on the U.S. side. There he is, David inside of Dragon. Human beings inside the Dragon spacecraft.
You might hear some cheers here from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne. This is just an incredible sight for the SpaceX team to see these ISS crew members inside the capsule.
And so they're going to use these two separate devices, David using one and Oleg Kononenko using another. And it takes them a couple of minutes usually for the sample readers to gather what they need. And then they'll move back outside of Dragon. And again, just compare this to the generic background readings that we have inside of another module on board the station. They should be heading over to the Destiny module, just basically two doors down from Dragon now. And they'll compare that, and then once everything looks good, teams expect to wait about half an hour, and then they'll start mixing the air between Dragon and the International Space Station. Our zero-G indicator getting a little bump there.
He is now free to move about the cabin.
And again, if you're just now joining us, the hatch is open inside of the Dragon spacecraft. Right now, two of the crew members from Expedition 58 are inside, just taking some atmospheric readings. It's Oleg Kononenko from the Russian Space Agency, Roscosmos, and David St. Jacques from the Canadian Space Agency. Once they get what they need, they'll move back outside, compare the results to some readings just from another module on board the station. You can actually see one of them. So the cargo that Dragon delivered is just underneath the seats. There's about 400 pounds, a little over 400 pounds in total.
You can see them inspecting some of those cargo bags down there.
Oh. Can you tell we're in microgravity?
It's been indicated.
All right, again, if you're just now tuning in, you're seeing human beings inside of the Crew Dragon spacecraft. It's David St. Jacques and Oleg Kononenko from Expedition 58. They're already moving some of the cargo around. They're in there taking some atmospheric readings. That hatch was opened at 5:07 a.m. Pacific, 8:07 a.m. Eastern, while the station was flying just about 255 statute miles over the northern Atlantic. Getting our split screen view back. So the one on the left, that camera is inside of Dragon. That camera on the right is inside of Node 2, looking down the pressurized mating adapter into the Dragon spacecraft. Hatch open.
That white box moving around inside the international docking adapter right there is one of the pieces of cargo that Dragon took up. As Dan said, that cargo is stored down below the crew area, below where the seats are. And it looks like they are already transferring some of that cargo out. A while ago, we talked about the differences between docking and berthing. One of the big advantages of docking, obviously, is that it's autonomous and the spacecraft itself can initiate and complete the process. But the hatch size is a lot smaller because of those necessary docking equipment. They're all around the edge of the hatch.
Yeah, you can actually get a really easy comparison with this view. So obviously the docking hatch is that small circle you see way in the foreground. This square shape that you can see Anne McLean just at on the screen on the right, that is a common berthing mechanism. So when the cargo dragons arrive, that's what they ultimately get bolted to. So you can see just kind of how much more clearance that can give a vehicle. But that does require you to actually bolt or attach and then bolt the spacecraft to that mechanism. You can't just fly in and dock like Dragon did earlier this morning.
That's why it's important to have a healthy ecosystem of spacecraft that are capable of visiting the space station to transport both humans and cargo of various sizes.
And that's also why we use the pressurized mating adapter. That's in some of the external views you've seen a large black structure that the Dragon is docked to, and that's essentially to turn a square hole into a circular hole. And that just allows you to change the type of docking adapter that you're able to put on there. It looks like we got some cargo coming out.
I know I've said it before, but hard to believe that thing was sitting on top of a Falcon 9 only 27 hours ago. And now they're transferring cargo out of the top hatch.
Station Houston on 2, and at this time we recommend that you set up the detectors, and David can help Oleg with the sample as needed.
Looks like they're already digging into some of that cargo that was brought up by the Crew Dragon.
Yeah, it looks like David St. Jacques there, close up to the camera on the right side. He's right now back in Node 2, the Harmony module, along with Anne McLean. Meanwhile, Oleg Kononenko still inside Crew Dragon. We should see him pop out in a little bit as soon as he's done getting that air sample.
And there he comes.
And moving back out.
Again, keeping that hatch open as the air won't readily mix by itself and without any gravity to help convection along.
crew getting a chance to take a couple of photos is they're surely going to want to commemorate the moment too.
It's a little selfie action. Can't help that. I'd be doing the same thing.
All right, so the hatchway open again. It's going to take a little while for them to just do final ratings on all of the samples, and then the folks on the ground, actually over in Mission Control.
Houston Station, step 9.4. The detector CTV is retrieved. All crew are out of Dragon. We're currently in lab forward.
Copy.
And so it sounds like the crew now back in the Destiny laboratory. You heard Ann McLean call down there in lab forward. That's the larger laboratory module on board the station. That's where a lot of the US-based experiments are housed. But they're going to go back there and now compare the air samples that they took inside of Dragon with just the background ones that they're able to get there in Destiny. And we're expecting it to take about 30 minutes or so.